Thank you so much. This is the first time I'm inviting you to Little Labu page, so I am honored to have you as my guest.
Thank you.
Um, to everyone who's watching, Madam Nusaiba is my idol. She has more than 20 years experience working with children in Montessori. You can read all about her, and I if you have been following my life on Little Abu page, I mention her name almost in every single live that I make when it comes to parenting or food
Oh
and
my
things
God.
like that. So finally, I get to have you on screen and get to abuse you with all sorts of questions that everyone
Oh,
in the audience have in mind.
oh, thank you for inviting me. Thank you. I'm happy to be
Okay.
here.
Actually, I'm not planning anything heavy, any heavy topic today. I just like to share with you what Montessori means to me. Being a mother who sent her children to your school. Okay, maybe I need to tell a little bit of history. How do I know you? Get to know you, Madam Nusaiba. Okay, actually, I homeschool my children. Used to homeschool my children because I have trouble in trusting people, and yeah, basically just that. It's not that I know how to do it myself. I don't even have any manual to homeschool. I didn't even use Montessori method when I first started, and I find it horrible because I don't. It's not structured. What I did before, and then for the first time I heard about Madam Nusaiba is when I went to your talk. You having a talk. You were invited at Montessori Anakku in Montclair. Remember?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
That
yeah.
was in April 2018.
Wow. Feels like we've known each other for a long time. Yeah, you
Yeah, that
remember. You
yeah, that was
remember
the
the.
first time I met her, and it was about it's a course about mathematics and how to teach mathematics the Montessori way. And you also presented Dr. Maria Montessori's history, which really opens up my mind. And immediately at that point, I want to pull my children out of this Japanese school that I've been sending them once a week. And I immediately contact her to enroll my children to her school. But the problem was her school is 45 kilometers away from my house. And I didn't even think twice. I just discussed with my husband. Even ever since my son, my firstborn, is 4 years old, if I'm not mistaken. I went to a lot of school, tried to find the right one for him. I went to Al Baghdadi. I went to a lot of interviewing teachers, basically, and checking the environment. So all the inspection that I did doesn't make me want to send my children there. And until I found your school. So thank you so much for coming to
Thank you.
Malaysia, for
Thank you.
migrating here.
I remember when you messaged me and you were like, you want to send the children to the school. I was like, what? How come? All the way to Surambah. So, but it's so wonderful that we've had the opportunity to have your children in our school and to see that commitment
Alhamdulillah.
from you. And you know, the driving back and forth and everything, you know,
Yes,
it's
everybody call me crazy, Nusaiba. Friends, relatives, they said it's impossible. It's like, stupid sometimes. But I think this is the sacrifice that I have to make because I won't send my children and risk their sensitive period, their absorbent mind, and send, just to be abused by some sort of teacher because I have an awful experience growing up at school. So this is an opportunity that I won't let go. And so I've been driving back and forth to Nusaiba School, which is Rumi Montessori, for 1 year. And then before we decided to move there. And then lockdown
yes.
came.
Lockdown came. Lockdown came, baby came, lots of things
Yes,
came.
yes, yes, baby came. a lot of things. I have notes here. Let me Auntie Farah Yasmin is here. The
Auntie
elementary
Farah.
teacher. Yeah, the elementary teacher is in here too. I hope you stay because I have a lot of things to say to you too. Thank you so much, Auntie Farah. My children loves you. And today they went. They had Iman had his first Haji experience, and Naila also joining him, even though Naila is not in lower elementary. And even before sleep, they recite Labbaik Allahumma labbaik until they fell asleep just
Oh,
now.
oh, bless them.
Oh,
So cute.
oh, I feel so grateful. So thank you so much, Auntie Farah, for everything you did. I think Auntie Sophie is also in
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I think all the aunties are joining for the school.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Uh, okay. So can I just start on sharing my experience of
Yeah, yeah,
watching how my children improve, and then maybe you can jump in and describe why Montessori is important and what Montessori do differently rather
sure,
compared
sure.
to regular school.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, sure.
okay.
Lovely.
So I'm going to flashback to the second week of school. My Iman, my firstborn, I enrolled him in to Rumi Montessori when he was 5. Am I right?
Yeah.
5. Yeah, when he was 5. To my surprise, I don't have any problem with him. Even on the first week, I just drop him off and I'm invisible.
Yeah, he was fine.
He was fine. He was fine. I know to anyone else this is not shocking, but for me this is shocking because I've sent him to another school before, and it took him 2 months to get used to that school, and it get him 2 months to even beginning to talk to the teachers.
Oh,
And even yeah, even though after 2 months then only beginning to talk to the teacher. He only talks with his face inside his shirt. You know, when people ask him anything, he would put his face in his shirt, then he answered. And I'm
yeah.
surprised. The moment I sent him there, he totally blend in immediately without any
Yeah,
trouble.
he was settled and happy. I even remember when you brought him for the visit, the first day
Yeah,
that you
the
went for the visit.
interview.
Yeah,
Mm.
he was like happy to like try something with me, and you know
Yeah.
he wasn't like kind of
He
like
didn't treat you like a stranger at
yeah, yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, the environment that we create, it's like it feels like a home. You know, it feels like close and homely and warm and stuff. So the environment itself, it just straight away, should help most children to start to feel like they belong here. You know,
And safe.
yes,
I
safe
can
and they
feel that
belong here.
he don't feel safe at the other school. And we were talking before he fell asleep. I told him that I was going live with you, and he said, "Can he join in?" He
Oh,
can join in, but it's bedtime. And then I
oh,
asked him, if I do live with you, I will ask you, why do you like Rumi, or do you like your old school better? And you know what he said? He said, "Of course I like Rumi." And then, what's wrong with the other school? I asked him, pretending I'm pretending not to know. And then he said, my teacher always want me to copy stuff, and I can't talk to my friends. I just have to sit there. I want, the normal things that kids wants to explore. They go to school because they want to socialize, but they can't do that because when lesson are progress, you can't talk. You have to look at the teacher, the whiteboard or blackboard, whatever it is.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I think the thing is that like in a mainstream school, the children go there to kind of conform to the curriculum or the lesson or whatever the teacher has planned. So the teacher's the one leading the energy, they're leading the children, they're kind of making the children pay attention to what the teacher already has planned. But in a Montessori school, we want the children to shine as individuals. We want them to show us their own personality. We want to get to know who they are. We don't want them
Oh,
to become what we've planned. We want them to be their own individual self. And so when children come to the Montessori school, it's like they realize that they can be who they are. And sometimes they can even be more of who they are than they would be at home because the environment is prepared. So they realize they can be themselves. And it's such a beautiful thing, even for us as adults, when you go to an environment and you're able to be yourself, you just feel
Ah,
at peace, you know? You don't feel, you're not
yeah,
anxious, you're not worried, you don't have this kind of thing
exactly.
that, you know, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I being judged? Do I have to
Anxious.
conform? You know, we feel that as adults. Now imagine the child who doesn't even recognize those emotions and can't express it. That's how they feel. But for us, in a Montessori environment, we try our best to make it an environment where the child can be who they are. They can express themselves. They can be themselves, express themselves. They can be their individuality. We don't want all the children to do the same thing. We don't want them to act the same way. It would be boring if they just all acted the same
Exactly.
way. We
Exactly.
want,
And
you know, we want each one's quirkiness and each one's individuality and each one's like
quirkiness.
interests and each one's the special thing about each child. We want that to shine, and that's what gives us joy as Montessori educators, is when we're in that classroom and we just have this personal relationship and experience with each and every individual child. And it just makes it so worthwhile as a teacher. And you know, for the child, that is like powerful, because I can come to this place, I can be myself, and there's nobody
Totally.
stopping me or, you know, forcing me to do something else. I can just be who I am. So that's probably
Every
what
time.
he's experienced. and
And that's what he said.
and he, you know, Iman is a very, he's his own personality, you know. He's a very like natural, pure child. Like, you know, like when you say the word boy,
Uh-huh.
I always imagine like Imans. You know? So, you know, they're full of energy, they've got their own interests, they've all got their own, you know, things. And you know, that's what is so beautiful about children, about childhood. And we don't want to take that away from them. In fact, we want to create that environment that gives them that opportunity to be themselves even more. So
Oof, I hope everyone in the audience feels how I feel when she talks about her school. I every time she talks about it, and every time I went there to fetch my kids or to teach, I always feel like I want to go back to being a child, because I want to school here, you know. I want to be educated by these people. I want to be treated with respect by these people. You know, imagining the outcome, the possibilities, what might have happened if I were Montessori educated, you know. And listening, hearing to what you said just now, every time it gives me that feeling, every time the overwhelming happiness of, you know, I don't know how to explain it to
that,
you, but
yeah, that's the thing, is that's what I felt as a child when I was in a Montessori school. So when I went to a Montessori school as a child, I remember that was the only place that I had in my life that I could be me, and I was understood as me. And so, you know, I didn't have that same experience in my home or in my family or wherever it was. And I didn't have it later on in my school years when I went to mainstream
oh,
school. So I remember that feeling as a child, and that always stayed with me. That kind of, that feeling of being able to be your true self without,
ah,
you know, without being in an environment that's forcing you or seeing you different from who you are. So I always had that feeling, and I want that for all the children, because I know that as a child that was so beautiful to experience. So Alhamdulillah we have Rumi Montessori. You know, I sometimes I still take those moments where I think, wow, this is really happening. We
yeah.
really have this school and we have these children,
And
and
it's expanding. You have the school and it's expanding.
inshallah.
Having,
Inshallah.
having, yeah. And all this coming out from someone who is actually having a fever right now, and yet taking the time to share with us all this beautiful, you know, information, priceless information even. Okay, so taking back to the first year that I sent my children there, I was there waiting for Naila, because Naila having trouble settling in. And then Iman was, this is the second week of school. And he was so excited to show me that he can wash his own cup after he drink. Because, you know, in Montessori school, they have everything is child size, everything is their size, and they will have snacks on their own, and then they will clean everything after themselves. So he was wiping this cup with a cloth, and then he will look at me, I can clean this. And he was so excited, he pushed it too far, too hard, and the glass slipped off his hand and shattered on the floor in front of me. And to my surprise, everyone in the classroom keep calm, and the teacher came. Oh, it's okay. The auntie helped with sweeping, and they just remind everyone else to stay put and don't come near to the glass so that nobody get hurt. You know what? That moment I fell in love again with Montessori. You know why? Because
Why?
in my experience at my school, oh, if somebody did anything wrong like that, the whole classroom will go, whoa, oh no, you did what? Oh, and the people will go, it becomes a zoo. Imagine, it will become a zoo. Everyone will boo you and reporting
Yeah.
to the teacher about on things, people who did wrongly and whatever. It really gives impact on my self-esteem. It really gives impact on, I grow up, what do you call that, uh I don't know how to put it in words. I don't like you said, conforming to people. Yeah.
Nonconformist.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you think about that experience, so you're a child and you dropped something on the floor and it smashed, and imagine now the whole class stops and everyone looks at you, and people are judging you, and people are shaming you,
Yes.
and
Yes,
people are
shaming.
making you feel bad, you know
Yes.
sometimes we do this to our own children at home. They make a mistake, and then we make them feel this guilt and this shame and this anger or whatever it is. What benefit comes out from that? What
Nothing.
benefit? What it teaches the child is, you better not try, so you don't make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, you're going to have this experience of shame and guilt, and that's not nice. But in a Montessori environment, we actually love mistakes, because
Oh,
mistakes
celebrating mistake.
are, yes, we celebrate mistakes because mistakes are opportunities to learn, right? Think about the mistakes that you've made in your life and how you have learned from them. Mistakes are experiences and opportunities for us to learn something. And that child who's holding that glass, and they drop that glass, when they drop it and it shatters, this is a real experience, which is teaching them that now they need to be more conscious about their movement. Now they need to be more careful about how they move their hands. Now they need to be more aware of what they're doing, right? So, if we don't allow the child to make mistakes, then how are they going to learn? If we instill this fear of error, then they're not going to even try.
Oh,
But for us in a
what a
Montessori
relief.
environment, we want them to try. We don't want them to have fear. We want them to know that no matter how many times you make a mistake, you can always get back up again and try. And no matter how many times you make a mistake, it's all part of the journey of becoming a better version of yourself. And this, so many of us have experienced that shame and guilt that comes with making a mistake, that we have a fear. But we don't want the children, they're not born with that fear. No child is born with the fear of making a mistake, right? But we kind of push that onto them, whether it's in a school or a home environment. We put them into that circumstance, and then they develop this fear. And that fear of making a mistake is going to prevent your child from learning. It's going to prevent your child from exploring new things. It's going to prevent your child from having the strength to try something new, to take a risk, a healthy risk.
Yeah.
So our prepared environment, it's a safe environment where the child can take risks. We have glass. Glass is a risk. They
Glass
can
is everywhere.
they can
You don't
take,
have plastic there.
yeah. We don't have any plastic. I hate plastic. I'm like the plastic police, So like, get it out of here. In my home as well. Like, I really hate plastic. But in the prepared environment, we have a safe place that the child can make a mistake. We know they're not going to get hurt because we are there. Yes, sometimes children will get a little bit hurt when they are, we've had it like in England. I remember once a child, they were washed, they might have scratched themselves when something broke, but it's still safe. Like they're not going to have something really terrible go on. So it's a safe environment. They can make a mistake. It's approached with positivity. It's approached with love. And then they learn that try anything that you want to try and know that we are there to support you, and mistakes are opportunities to learn and improve and progress and develop yourself.
Wow, that's very powerful. I hope every children in Malaysia, in fact in the world, have the opportunity to be treated like this and not to be shamed at school whenever they make mistakes, because mistakes is something that we do every day, especially as a child, right? So I really hope everyone who's watching, probably you can start implying or tell a friend about it, that there's another way of parenting or teaching and things like that. Okay, so moving on to the second one that my what do you call that? My experience with Montessori. So this year I started teaching watercolor once a week at Rumi Montessori, and every time I had that 3 hours, I spent 3 hours in the classroom, I always learn new things about Montessori children and their environment. It's not about me teaching them watercolor. I learn a lot from them. I usually hear this from a lot of teachers, but I don't know how true it is. But now I know it is, because I've been there and I experienced it myself. Okay, there's this one time during the Ramadan, I was having 3 children at my table. One, I think, a girl, an 11 years old girl, and the other 2 boys were 10 and 11 also, if I'm not mistaken. And we are having happily having a conversation about, what? About menstrual. And this is rare. You know why I say it's rare? Because menstrual is something that girls at school are being really shamed about. Very, whenever we have that time of the month, we will be extra cautious about ourselves, where are we sitting and how we put our, in regular school in Malaysia, we wear white baju kurung. So we have to always, every time, pull up our baju kurung before we sit, because we don't want anything to stain, to left behind.
I'm sorry, but I need 1 second. I'll be back. I need to excuse myself. I've got little kittens here. So just give me 1 moment, because
don't wonder. Okay.
I'll be back.
Okay. Dapat minum sekejap. Okay. While Madam Nusaibah is getting, playing with a kitten, anyone who have any question, please drop down there, because since she have time for us now, it's so hard to get her on screen. So we're lucky to have her tonight. So if you have anything in mind, just drop your question down there. And if I oversee it, you can just type it again in the comment, okay? It's a taboo. Yeah. Question section, how to handle tantrums. Stories, how to handle tantrums in Montessori way. All right. I'll ask her later that one. So for everyone watching, is it okay if I speak in English and not translating it to Malay, or do you need me to translate it? Translate our conversation in Malay? You can just drop a comment below. What do you think? Comment about kindergarten that apply Montessori. Ooh. I don't know what Madam Nusaibah think about it, but before I enroll my children to any school, before I decided to homeschool even, I went to one famous Montessori chain in Malaysia to check, just to interview and check on the environment. it is, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, it has nothing like authentic Montessori. It is not Montessori. In fact, it's a sin to call themselves a Montessori because they use, yeah, can't comment more about that because it's a business, right? Why would it be a taboo? It's very Islamic in its values, like trying to discover your purpose in life.
So sorry.
Was it Mocha's children?
Yes. One of them is not feeling well. So,
Wow. Okay.
I'm back. So sorry, everybody.
Where were we? I've forgotten where were we. Oh, about menstrual.
Yes.
So people on the audience said that it's a taboo. And Montessori parents said, why would it be a taboo? It's very Islamic in its values, like trying to discover your purpose in life.
I think
Okay.
in the way that I see it is that things that are natural, we need to make them natural for the child as well, right?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
the approach that I use with my son is everything at the right time and just as much as he needs to know. So discussions about things like, you know, not just menstruation, but whatever it may be, you know, changes in body or whatever it may be, all of those discussions happen at the right time and in the right proportion according to what that individual needs, and done in a very natural way so that they don't feel like it's a taboo, or they don't feel like it's something shameful, or they don't feel like it's something stressful or something that they want to hide. And
Okay.
you know, what I
You
found
mean
is
you promote to talk about it openly in a Montessori school?
I don't let me talk as a parent. As a parent, I probably
Okay.
don't want teachers talking to my child about loads of different things unless I know who's the teacher and what they're gonna say. And you know, like I think actually the most important thing, more than what the teacher or school will do, I think what the most important thing is what you do as a parent. So, because we can't control a school. You can't control a school. You can't control the society. You can't control people who are not in your immediate family. You can't control them and how they're going to approach your child. And there is going to be times that they're going to be exposed to these things from the outside world. But the best thing that you can do is your work as a parent. And what I feel is so important for all parents to do is to have that open communication that your child can come and talk to you about anything. Don't make these conversations things that are embarrassing or shameful or disgusting, or you know, don't make it like that, because then your child, when they're older, they'll never come and talk to you about these things, right? It's how you would talk about anything. You can also talk about the, you know, that same neutral, positive energy that you'd have when you talk about anything else in the world. You want to have that when you talk about changes in the body, puberty, and all of that. You know, you want to have that energy so that the child doesn't feel like this is some, you know, strange topic or a secretive topic that I better not go and talk to my mom about, or, you know, something that, you know, something that they need to do in secret, right?
Yeah.
Have that open communication, and that open communication starts from when the child is young. And it doesn't mean on that topic. It just means that you, in general, being a parent, that can have that open communication with your child, where you discuss things, where you about any subject. You need to have that communication, that strong relationship with your child, so that when they do get older, you can have discussions about these topics. And we all know, all of you who are parents, you know that there will be times that you're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however old your child is, they will start to show an interest in you know, body parts or private parts, right?
Yeah.
You don't want your reaction to your child at that time. You don't want to give off that energy of, oh my God, why is my child talking about private parts? Because they're going to absorb that energy, and they're going to think, this isn't a conversation I should be having with my mom, right?
Because
They're
it
going
makes them feel uncomfortable.
yes, and they're going to be they're going to be curious. So they're going to have that conversation anyway. But
with someone else.
Yes. If you make it uncomfortable and they feel that they can't approach you, they're going to go have that conversation with someone else. And then you won't know what's going on. So, if you are having the right relationship with your children, then, and have that open communication, you'll be able to have those conversations at the right time. And my approach that I used with my son was always the right proportion, the right amount, according to what he's asking and what he needs to know. And, giving it in a very positive way. So, and I found that that's worked the best. You can't control what's going to happen in a school. You don't know, these things are also really individual to each person. So you don't know what energy the teacher's going to have when they talk about these things. You don't know. But you want to make sure that you first start from home, having that relationship and letting your child feeling that they can come and talk to you about anything. And this is really important to me because in England, there are so many cases of sexual abuse and molestation. And, I never wanted my child to be in a position that he couldn't come and talk to me if somebody touched him inappropriately or spoke to him inappropriately or showed him something inappropriate. Right. And I know that in Malaysia, it happens too, but it's just hidden. Right.
Yes.
It's not out in the open as much as it is in the UK. And, there's benefits that it's hidden. And there's also, the downside that it's hidden. It's important for us as parents to be really aware that these things do happen around us. And we need our children to have that open communication. So if something happens, you will know straight away and you can help your child to get through that situation. We don't want them to go through a situation that's not positive and then have that fear to come to talk to you, because the last time when they were 3 and they innocently asked you, something about, a body part, you had this strange energy. So then they just kind of thought, oh, I shouldn't ask about that part, So you want to have that open communication. I think that's really important. I don't know how we got onto this topic.
It's okay. I needed it for my children. So I bet a lot of people in the audience also needed it too. So when I was teaching, they openly talk about it without any shaming. With everyone is very respectful towards each other. Even when this girl was asking me, Auntie, are you fasting today? And I said, I can't because I'm having my menstrual. Oh, me too, she said. And then the boy beside me, which is 11 years old, he said, oh yeah, my mom sometimes can't fast too. Sometimes because of pregnancy, sometimes because of her menstrual, sometimes because of breastfeeding. Like right now, she's breastfeeding my sister, he said. I'm getting Nazia for a bit. Hold on.
While you're getting her, there's a question that came up saying, is there such thing as being too open when it comes to communication with your child? When I say open communication, I don't mean that you open and you just say everything, you talk about everything. For me, it's really, really important that it's like you give the child as much as they need according to their interest, according to what they're asking, according to what they're being exposed to, according to the environment that they're in. So for example, I know people who've had to say to their 2 and 3 year old, they've had to teach their 2 and 3 year old that nobody is allowed to touch your body. They've had to say that because they're living in an environment where it's very easy for their child to have someone inappropriately touch them. But there may be a child who's not in that environment, so you wouldn't need to give them those words in that specific way.
Like putting the idea inside of their mind, right?
Yes. So it's about always keeping in mind the child, the questions that they're asking, the interests that they have, what they've been exposed to, and building this up in a very natural, organic way. You don't want to introduce too much too early, and you don't want to keep it too late either, because that's not healthy as well. And, you need to be prepared. So sometimes as a parent, it's good to think about this beforehand and have your plan so that when your child comes and asks you the question, you're ready. You know, you're ready with what you want to say, and you know how you're going to approach it. It's not something that's going to kind of catch you out of the thing. And having that open communication is not just for these things. Open communication is for everything, you know, all aspects of life, so that the child can come and express themselves, express what they're feeling or thinking. I've heard stories of children who are going through depression, who are have suicidal thoughts, and they don't have that open communication with their parents, so they don't go and tell them. You know, their parents don't know what their child is going through. We know about children who are bullied, not in our school, but just, you know, in the community or wherever it may be, children who are bullied and they're going through terrible things, but because there's no open communication with their families, they can't go and have that conversation. Do you want your child to not be able to come and speak to you when there's something going on, not be able to come and express to you? You know, the way that you can try to ensure that your child will be able to come and share with you whatever it may be that they're experiencing in life is that you have this open communication from when they are young. And trust me, I have a teenager. And when it comes to the teenage years, your children, they go out of your home. It might not be physically, but they are now exposed to the wider society on another level, right? And you want your teenager to have that open communication so they can come and they can tell you. They can tell you if somebody's offered them a vape. They can tell you if somebody's, somebody's, you know, stealing something, or like, you know, all of these things that teenagers may get into. You want your child to be able to come and discuss those things with you, so that you are there beside them, supporting them, so that even if they do make a mistake, and trust me, teenagers will make mistakes in those years. So it's not about them not making a mistake, but it's about even if they do make a mistake, they can still come to you and they can discuss it with you, and you can help them work through it so that they can get back on track to become the best version of themselves. So that like, you know, that open communication, it's not something you start when your child is, you know, 8 or 17, or no, you have to start from birth. Be there for your child. Have that connection with your child so that they can talk. Yes, the trust, so that they can talk to you, so that they can discuss with you, so that they feel that they can be themselves. Don't shame them or put aside their individuality. Let them be themselves and express whatever it is, whether it's anger or hurt or excitement or whatever it is. Let them feel that they can come and express it with you, because that is going to be so beneficial and helpful for them and for you as your child grows.
I want that.
Yeah. So that's really, really important. And our work starts when they're young. You know, it starts when they're young. And even as teachers in the classroom, you have to try to have that open communication as well with the children, so that if something is going on in a child's life, you know, let's say you have a child who can't communicate to their mother and father, and you are the only person they need to have that open communication so that they can come and tell you what's happening. And I've been in that situation before as a teacher, where children have come and revealed to me things that are going on in their lives that need immediate attention, that they couldn't tell their parents, you know?
The amount of trust they put in you.
And that's our responsibilities as teachers, is that we have to have that open communication, build that trust and that connection, and allow the child to be themselves and express themselves, so that they can come and tell you whatever it is that is happening in their life that they need help and support for. That's really important. So both parents and educators, we need to develop that connection and bond. And, you know, I'm glad that I knew about this when my son was young. And I'm so glad that as a teenager, he will come and express things to me that I never imagined that we'd be having this conversation. But I'm so...
How do you control yourself? Like not reacting shock and, you know, unsettled. How do you control your reaction?
The first thing I think is, he's going to have this conversation anyway. Who do I want him to have it with? Me. I want him to have it with me or with his dad, or just what I mean. So he's going to have this conversation anyway. So if you react in the wrong way, you're pushing them away. So don't react in the wrong way. That's the first thing that immediately makes you calm. And actually, if you practice this when they're older, it's easy. It's easy to talk about things. I mean, I don't, like, I don't want to go into too much details about my son,
Yeah.
but it's really
Yeah.
easy to like, to whatever they throw at you, it becomes easier to have those conversations because you have that open communications. You've had so many conversations about different things before. So anyway, I hope that helps with
Very, very, very helpful.
unexpected.
Unexpected, but I really need that too. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, there's a question in the question section. How to handle tantrum the Montessori way? Because yesterday I invited a psychologist to my live, and then a lot of people asked how to handle tantrum and meltdown. So if it happened in your classroom, how do you handle it?
First of all, I think it's important to differentiate between a meltdown and a tantrum.
Okay.
They're actually different, right? A meltdown, I mean, I've shared it before in my IG story. I don't have the exact terminology in my head, but a meltdown is more like a sensory overload, an overload that's happened, and the child is, they're, in a way, they kind of like explode. It's like an overload, and a meltdown is totally uncontrollable, right? They cannot control themselves, right? Usually a tantrum is linked to a goal or an aim, right? So let's say, for example, your child wants an ice cream and you're like, you have to have the ice cream after dinner. And they're like, no, I want the ice cream now. After dinner, I want it now. After dinner, you have this battle. And then your child starts throwing a tantrum, and then you give them the ice cream and then they stop.
So that's tantrum.
Yeah, that's the end. It's for that thing, and they stop. I mean, I'm really, really simplifying it. There's
good. Yeah.
there's
I
a lot,
watched
but
your
I'm
live
trying to
about
like
it,
simplify
actually.
it.
Yeah.
But then with a meltdown, it might start that they become emotional about something. It might start that they become emotional about an ice cream. It might start like that. But once they enter the meltdown, it's not about the ice cream anymore. It's about they can't cope with the overload, whether it's the sensory overload or the emotional thing. They cannot cope with it, and so they have this meltdown. And even if you give the child the ice cream, they're still having the meltdown. Actually, they don't even, it's nothing about the ice cream anymore.
Oh, so that's how we differentiate.
Yeah. And usually meltdowns are more towards something sensory or something like autistic children have meltdowns. It's not a tantrum. It's something different. And the way that we deal with meltdowns is also different from the way that we would deal from a tantrum. So I think that it's important to go into that more. Maybe I'll share something on my my page about that. My son never had a tantrum, but he had meltdowns.
Oh yes, people on the in the audience, maybe you haven't know that Madam Nusaiba have an autistic teenager.
Yes.
An awesome one. You can't tell that he's autistic at all, okay?
Who loves Jiha.
I'm his watercolor teacher.
She's the painter, and he's like one of her idols that he's like, I love this person. So anyway, so he doesn't talk to anybody, but if he sees Jiha, he'll be like ready to like look at her. So anyway, and he's looking now, he's smiling and he's scratching his head. He's like, why are you embarrassing me? I'm so sorry. Anyway. Yeah, so he never had a tantrum, but he always had meltdowns. Okay, so and the reason I'm sharing that is it's important that you investigate to find out what is actually going on for your child. Is it a tantrum? Is it a meltdown? If it's a meltdown, you need to look at what is the trigger for the meltdown. What is it? What is it? So for example, for my son, if there's too much noise in an environment, he can have a meltdown. If there's if there was one point in his life where if the smells were too strong, he couldn't express and he couldn't explain what he was experiencing, and he would have a meltdown. right? You know, there'll be different things for different children that will trigger meltdown. Sometimes it could be something emotional, like they can't cope with the emotional feeling that they're feeling, whether it's grief or anger or sadness or whatever it may be. They can't cope, and then they can't express themselves, and then they will have a meltdown, right? So it's important that you first figure out what it is, and then if it's a tantrum, then you need to try and understand, what is this pattern? All behavior from children, including a tantrum, all behavior is communicating something. It's a form of communication, right? If you are able to understand the communication before it gets to a tantrum, the tantrum will not happen. If you're able to read what is going on, read the situation, read what the child is trying to express to you before
then
the
we can
tantrum
prevent
happens.
it.
It's not even prevent it. It's not necessarily prevent it. Like, the reason that I can say that my son never had a tantrum is because I was always observant of the situations that were happening. Yes, there are times that he asked for ice cream and I told him he has to wait for after dinner. And there are times that he was not happy about that. But how do I communicate that? And how do I allow him or support him in communicating his frustration or his disappointment or his anger because he can't have that ice cream, right? I never wanted it to be that he had to communicate through a tantrum. I wanted him to be able to communicate through words, right? So from a young age, I would use all of that positive language, it's really important to recognize their emotions, show that you understand, even if the child cannot say it, you show that you understand. I understand that you are upset right now because you really, really want to eat this ice cream. You know, you need to show that you understand what they're going through. And sometimes even you using those words, it helps the child to build that vocabulary for themselves and their own expression.
Putting words on emotion. I read it somewhere.
Yeah, in a way. So you need to be able to recognize what they're going through so that once they feel heard and understood, it's less likely that they're going to have a tantrum, because the tantrum is to express something, right? The tantrum is to communicate something to you. So if you can understand what they're going to communicate before the tantrum happens, why would the tantrum happen?
Say the tantrum still happen. What can we do?
But then what have you missed in the communication with the child? What have you missed?
I can understand that a lot of parents are working before MCO. So observation, like what you do in Montessori, doesn't happen much. So even though they're working at home, from home in MCO, they still looking at their, laptop and iPad or phone. So I don't think observation is a choice right now. So say
so let's say, for example, right now, and I know this is happening in loads of homes. I don't want anyone to feel like bad or guilty about this, because that's not the aim of this this conversation. But right now in people's homes, you have the mother working on the laptop, sometimes 8 hours a day or more. You have the father working on the laptop, and then sometimes you have 3 or 4 children in the house having to have their online sessions or whatever it is. And we know that the children, they feel frustrated. They feel frustrated that they can't get out. They feel frustrated that they don't get any attention from their family. Their mom is there, but she can't give them attention. I mean, that is hard for a child, right? They're feeling frustrated. They're frustrated they can't see their friends. They can't go ride their bike outside. There are so many things. So we know that the child is experiencing this. So when we deal with the child, we need to recognize that sometimes their communication is about this frustration or about these emotions that they can't express to you about the lockdown is going to come out in anger or a tantrum or crying or being clingy, all of these characteristics, all of these things that we see come up in the child, sleeping problems or whatever it may be that comes up in the child. That's how they're expressing what they're going through. And one way that we can help them is to acknowledge, I know it's not easy for you because you really, really miss seeing your grandma. I miss her
Have the
too.
conversation.
Yes, I miss grandma too. I know you feel hurt that you can't see your grandma. You know, I feel really hurt as well. And then direct them towards a positive way to work through that emotion.
How?
Whatever it may be that is positive for the child. So, you know, I know that you really, really, really miss your grandma and we can't go to see her right now. Shall we call her? Or shall we draw a card for her? Or shall we write a message? I think this happened with Nyla. I think actually one time in the classroom, she was like really upset because I want my mom, you know, I want my mom. And I said to her, I know you're really upset because you want to see your mom right now and you love your mom so much. And I said to her, I love my mom so much and I want to see my mom as well. I said to her, Nyla, shall we write a message? I think I WhatsApped you that day. I said, Nyla, shall I send a message to your mom and tell her that you're waiting for her?
Yeah.
And she said,
You
yes. And then I wrote it. I said, what do you want me to write? And then whatever she told me to write, typed it. She can't read, right? We know that she couldn't read at that time. But, you know, it doesn't matter whether she knows that this is a message that's going to her mom. And then we sent the message. So instead of her going through a tantrum and having all this crying and then you having to rush to the school and you having to pick her up and she's, you know, and then there's trauma and there's a bad experience. Instead of all of that happening, it's like we worked through that emotion. We gave her a positive way to show that feeling that she has inside her that she misses her mom and she wants to see her mom. Right? But it's, you know, first you have to observe to know what's going on. And observation doesn't mean you need to sit with a pen and paper. It's just look at the child and try to understand what's going on. You need to acknowledge it. And usually I like to share my own experience. So I acknowledge the emotions. I say, I know you're feeling really upset because you want to see your mom. And then I share my own experience. I love my mom too. And I miss her.
Being empathetic.
Yes. And it's you're mirroring what they're experiencing. So now they feel like, oh, she gets that too. She understands me, you know? So you're expressing it in that way. And then direct them to a positive way to handle that feeling or that emotion or that expression or whatever it is.
Brilliant.
You know? So when you do that, if you build that habit, then you will see changes in your child. You see changes in your child, you'll see that they will begin to recognize their own emotions and they'll begin to find different ways to express themselves. And it's not just that it makes your life easier because there's no more tantrums. It's not even about that. It's this is helping your child for their life.
Yes.
Because they will grow into a person who's able to recognize their emotions, work through their emotions, and direct their energy into a positive direction. And we need that as adults. You know, we need to have that. So this is really important. So, you know, like in a Montessori environment, we're not just looking at the academic development of the child. It's not just about the academic. It's not just
about the EQ, right?
It's about
the emotional
everything.
quotient.
It's about everything, all aspects of the child's development. And one of those aspects is the emotional development. And so it's important that we are able to help the child, whether it's as a parent, as an educator, help the child to positively recognize their emotions and work through their emotions. And, you know, the emotion, the energy that you get in an emotion is an opportunity for you to do something amazing. You know, so, you know, we don't want them to shun their emotion. We don't want them to feel bad that they're angry. Anger can actually, in some ways, if you can direct it to the right angle, anger can lead to something beautiful, you know? you
How
know,
so?
sadness. Like
Okay.
one of the stories that I remember one of my trainers told me is that, you know, Maria Montessori, I don't know if those of you who are listening know this story about Maria Montessori, but Maria Montessori, she had a child out of marriage,
Oh,
just before she started working, set up her Montessori school. She actually had a child out of marriage, and because of the social situation and the taboo that was around at that
back
time,
then, yeah.
she wasn't able to keep the child with her, and she had to secretly send him to live on a farm, right?
Oh,
So imagine, you know, this child, this baby that you love is being sent to live away from you, and you want to be with. So imagine the emotions that she was going through. And I remember one of my trainers was saying to me that all of that energy, that pain, that hurt, that whatever it is that she went through, look at what she did with her life.
she's amazing. She should have been a
Look at
Muslim.
look at what she did with her life, and look at how she's impacted, even 100 years later, she's impacted the lives of like millions of children.
We're still talking about her, see?
Yeah. So that's the thing is that, you know, your child is never going to grow up in a world where they're not going to experience things that are going to be hurtful or upsetting or difficult or stressful. There's no such thing. The world is not like that. We know that they're going to have to face these emotions at some point, one and another. And we don't want to prevent them from facing them. No, we want to help them to face them positively, so that out of that emotion can come something positive. It's about learning how to manage your emotions and direct them in a positive direction so that something amazing can happen. And
Wow.
one of the the lecturers that I really, really love listening to, you know, not a Montessori one, but
Okay.
he said to me that what great man or woman is there who became a hero without the great, huge challenge that he went through in his life? He said, how can you have a hero without a story where they were challenged? So that challenge, that difficulty you go through is what builds the hero, what builds the great person. But it happens like that when we channel it in the right direction. And for us, with our children, what we want to do, we want to help them to have that emotional intelligence, so that when something goes on in their life, and it's going to happen, at some point in their life, it's going to happen, they're able to face it in the right direction. They can recognize their emotion, they can express themselves, they can direct it in the right way. They can then become a healthy, positive, contributing member of society, right?
Wow.
So with your small little 2-year-old, you know, who wants to, you know, do something and you can't give it to them, you know, you have to begin to help them, you know, you recognize the emotions they're going through and be clever in the way that you talk to them. Because if you use the right words and the right energy, that tantrum won't happen. It won't happen.
Wow.
Right?
I feel so
And
lucky.
don't feel guilty if it is happening. Don't feel guilty if it is happening. This is not about saying that it should never happen. This is about knowing that it is possible to make a change. And the fact that your child is having a tantrum means that he's telling you now that he wants you to support him through this communication. He wants you to help him find another way to communicate. And because this was something that I was really aware of when I had my son, and I read lots of positive discipline books, especially the one by Jane Nelson, which is really famous right now. And she's written other books as well. So, you know, I read these books. So I remember reading them while he was like a few months old, and really going over and over. And there's another book, how to speak so children will listen, and how to listen so children will speak. That's another book. Or talk, I think it is, how to talk so children listen. So that was another book that I remember reading when he was really young. And I use that as my guideline. And because I really stuck to that, and I was a young mom, so I took things really like black and white. This is how you talk to the child.
Which is
Because
good.
I used that. There is no memory in my mind of him having a tantrum.
You know what? I feel like I would like to be an audience now rather than the person who's interviewing you now, because I would like to absorb everything rather than go through all the comment while I want to focus, like give me all my focus. Okay, to everyone's watching right now, you guys are very lucky. You know why I say that? Yes, Madam Nusaiba is amazing. I really highly respect her. And did you guys just witness how she turned something that everyone sees as a negative things into something wonderful? Not wonderful, amazing, even overwhelmingly positive. She just said that a tantrum is an opportunity to be more, to become better person for the child, an opportunity to learn. Because I can share with you one of my friends, her parents who also sending her child to Rumi Montessori. This mom told me a story about how Madam Nusaiba turned her view, you know, turn her view towards her child. For example, she was complaining, saying that, oh, my son always eat and eat and eat. And then she told this to Madam Nusaiba. And then Madam Nusaiba said, I know, he loves to eat. And she was like, I'm complaining, and she's like celebrating it. Wow, I am doing it wrongly all this while. Why am I complaining so much? It opens up our eyes that we are judging our children, and then we are judgmental, which is actually wrong.
It's actually really interesting to see that child and his connection to food. And it really shows that kind of very natural, organic human tendency, and human need. And he expresses it so purely. And when I watch it and I see him, and I just think, wow. And the way he eats, he has so much innate gratitude for his food.
Oh,
And I
see,
watch
are
it,
you guys watching this?
and sometimes I'm like, wow, he makes me feel like I need to be grateful for my food the next time I have it. It's like really, really cute, the way that it is. So for me,
Wow.
like for me, often when I'm in the classroom, for me, it's like the excitement of watching each one of these little children and seeing these unique things about them, and being able to understand what they're doing and who they are and what they're thinking, and it brings so much joy, because the child is so unpredictable, and they're so enjoyable to watch. When you put them in a prepared environment, it's so enjoyable to watch. You're just like, wow, it's entertaining. For me it is, and it should be for everybody, because it's a natural thing.
You want to be more
So
like you.
it's if you're not feeling it, sometimes you don't feel that inquisitiveness about the child because you haven't taken the time to just sit and watch them. So one of the things that we do as Montessori teachers is we observe the child. And when you observe the child, you actually have to stop yourself, come to a neutral place and observe them observe them as someone who's watching, but without your baggage and your commentary and your stories that are going on. Just for a moment, shut off your life and shut off your thinking and just watch. If you do that, you'll get addicted to observing children, because it's so incredible. It's so entertaining. It's so enjoyable. But you have to kind of build that habit. And for those of you who haven't experienced this before, it's fine. Just keep trying to observe the child. And one moment you will think, oh, I love that. And when that time comes, message me. Tell me, I got it. Because it takes time but eventually when you get there, you then develop this love of observation and this inquisitiveness to see what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? How are they going to approach this? How are they going to respond to this? And you get so much joy and happiness from watching them. And as a parent, you know, if you can observe your children, you will just be so entertained and have so much joy seeing how your child is naturally and who he is. And you'll learn things about your child that you never knew before. And Dr. Montessori says that it's through observation, it's in the observation that the child reveals themselves. So when we work on ourselves and we develop that skill of observation, the child will reveal themselves to us and we'll begin to see who they truly are. And once you see who they truly are, you will be in love and you will be addicted to observing your children. And that's one of the techniques that I implemented with my son, is to observe him, to really get to know him. One of the things that I told myself when he was young is, I want to know who he really is, not who I want him to be or who I think he is, or I don't want to shape him into someone else. I want him to be himself. And I want to know who he is, because that's like really interesting. You know, who is this? Who is this human being that has been, you know, put as my son? Who is he?
I've been doing things wrongly.
No, don't. The way that I see it is, don't ever say to yourself, I've been doing things wrongly. Don't say it in that negative way. Always see it as a journey of moving forward and growing. You're growing.
You see, again.
You're growing.
Thank you.
When you say, I am a bad mom, I'm doing things wrongly, I've done this wrong. When you say that, you're putting in a negative energy into something that's not negative. You're putting in a negative energy, and then it makes it harder, it makes it stressful, it brings on guilt, it brings on pain, it brings on whatever it is, remorse. You don't want that. You know, you want to see your child is growing and they're on a journey, and you're also growing and you're on your journey as a parent. This is your parenting journey. You know, before your child was born, you were not a mother. You know, you have this rebirth as a mother, and you are also in your journey as a mother. So you have to grow, right? And so you're not going to have everything in one go. No one is a perfect mother. No one is able to communicate perfectly with their child from the beginning. Even Montessori teachers, we don't know how to perfectly communicate with our children. It's always a journey of improving and of growing and of beginning to understand. And one of the tools that will help you to understand your child is that you need to develop knowledge about the characteristics, the interests, the needs of the child in each stage of development, the universal characteristics and needs, the planes of development that Dr. Montessori tells us about. You need to develop that knowledge, because when you develop that knowledge, then you will begin to understand more about who your child is and what they're doing. And I'll give you an example. You know, I'm trained from 0 to 12 years, right? And I've done loads and loads of Montessori training all the way from 0 to 12 years, lots of different courses, but I didn't train in the adolescence years. So I didn't train from 12 to 18. So I remember that I could understand my son fairly well when he was below the age of 12, because I was trained in that level and I had that knowledge, right? That knowledge, that experience, I was trained, so I could understand him. And I remember when he got to about 14, 15, 16, it's the first time in my life I was like, oh my God, I don't understand him. I don't understand what's going on.
You've been doing everything by the book.
Yeah, and then suddenly I have this being who's presenting different behaviors and different characteristics, and I don't understand them because I wasn't trained at that level. So one of the things that I started to do is, like recently I've been taking the adolescence training for Montessori, 12 to 18, also because I know that we have children like Iman, and one day he's going to be in adolescence, and you know, I'm thinking I better get ready. You know? So anyway, I started on the adolescence course for 12 to 18-year-olds, and now I understand him. so much better.
Alhamdulillah.
Like he last year, no, when he was 15, he started to get really, really interested in boxing. And I was like, what, why is he interested in boxing? You know, like we don't have any boxers in the family. And yeah, he has the physique for a boxer, but he was, you know, if you saw him when he was 8, 9, 10, 11, even 14, he was like a really gentle butterfly. You know, he was like
A
really
gentle
gentle.
butterfly.
Yeah, he was really gentle and soft spoken, and he had the cutest little voice, and he was a gentle, you know, little person. And I was like, oh my God, like how come he's suddenly changed and now he's like this boxer, you know? And you know, I couldn't understand the change, but now that I've taken that training, I understand that this is part of his creative self-expression. He is creatively expressing himself through this movement of the body, through this boxing, and it is through this boxing that he's creating his adult personality. Now I understand it. So now when I see him do something to do with boxing with such energy and energy and force, and when I see it, I know what he's doing. He's creating his adult self. It's not the boxing, but it's the adult self that he's creating, and he's expressing himself. So now I have that knowledge. So when I see him, I can understand what he's doing and I can support him. But if you don't have knowledge, you won't know. You won't understand what's going on. I can give you another example for an elementary child, right? So
Okay.
one of the interests that often come up in elementary children is that they begin to show interest in money, right?
Oh.
They show interest in money. They like to save money. They like to do fundraisers. They like to do little businesses, tiny little businesses, like, you know, make things and sell them. And, you know, they start to ask questions about how much does that cost? Or can I pay? Or can you, all these things? Yeah, you've seen that.
Can we afford that? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an elementary characteristic that they begin to show interest in money, right? So if you know that before Iman asks you those questions, if you knew that when he starts to ask you those questions, you'd be like, that's the one, that the money one, you know, that's the money one showing up. And then you create opportunities for them to explore. You create opportunities that you allow them to engage, you allow them to explore. So one of the things that my son did is that when he was into money, he started to go around and ask people, how much do you earn? He would go around, yeah.
Wow.
It's not rudeness, you know. So
it's this curiosity.
Yeah. So if there is a parent who doesn't understand this interest in money, they might say, you know, they might tell their child, you can't do that. You cannot ask people about their salary. That's really, really rude. I can't believe you've done that. That's really embarrassing. They might, shame the child or shun the child. But because I knew this is a natural interest. Money is a natural interest that's going to come up, because I knew that was going to happen. When I saw him ask people, how much do you earn? How much do you pay for your car? You know, how much is your mortgage? Whatever it is. When I saw that, I knew, okay, you know, this is not rudeness, and this is not him being inconsiderate to others. This is a natural interest, and let me create an environment that's going to allow him to explore money. Allow him to explore money, allow him to study like economics in a way that's suitable for an elementary child, because that's an interest that he has. So when you understand your child, that's a kitten who's playing with my phone. So when you understand your child, whether they are newborn, or they're an infant, or they're a child from 3 to 6 years, or they're an elementary child from 6 to 12, or an adolescent from 12 to 18, or, you know, when you can understand the characteristics, the needs, the interests, the personality, what happens in each of these stages, then as you go on this journey with your child, you'll be prepared and you'll have that knowledge of what's happening. And that is going to help you in your work with the child. It will help you to be able to observe them, to recognize what's going on, to create an environment that supports them, and to remove obstacles. So that is really important.
So much
Thank you.
clarity, because recently Iman have been curious and been asking on the road, how much did that uncle's car cost? Is that car the same
Well,
as this one? Which one is more expensive? How can they afford expensive car? How much do you, at first I thought, yeah, like you said, so you have everything in a manual? Everybody needs that.
yeah, I discussed a lot of these characteristics in that introduction course, Introduction to Islamic Montessori course. I discussed a lot of these characteristics, but I also
Ah,
connected them like Islamically to us as, you know, Muslim families or, you know, Muslim educators, how it kind of links together. So I discussed a lot of them. But actually, when I'm better, I'm planning to run another series of courses, inshallah, that's going to go through each
oh,
stage.
let's all pray for
So
that.
pray for me. You know,
Mm.
but I have a list of courses that I'm planning to get through. So the first one is going to be the cosmic education course, which I know a lot of people are like
Yeah, been
bursting.
waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, I'm hoping August, you know, hoping end of August that one is going to be launched. And
Inshallah,
once that one is
inshallah.
done, then I'm hoping to go through the different stages of development and do another course, because the introduction to Islamic Montessori course is available, so you
Mm.
can join it anytime, you can watch it anytime, you can listen over and over and over again. But that one was in 2018, and
We can just go to your
yeah,
profile and click the link, right?
yeah, you can click the link, or if you're in Malaysia and you can't do the online payment, you can just contact me and pay directly in Malaysia, because it's on a different website. So I'm going to do another course where we'll go into more depth later on. But if you
Oh,
want to get started now, you can just join that course, because I went through it, I explained it, and it really gives a good introduction, a good foundation. So
inshallah. I don't want to miss it, so please bring me when you have that
yeah,
course
sure, sure.
ready. Oh,
Inshallah,
all right.
yeah, sure.
Let's move on to the next question. Juwairia said, are star and reward charts damaging in the long run? Will they interfere with the child developing intrinsic motivation and sincerity in performing good deeds, for instance?
So Montessori, we don't give rewards and we don't give punishments. Okay, rewards and punishments lead the child to acting or doing something because there is something external, like a sticker or a sweet or praise even, or a punishment. There is something external that's influencing them and making them do that thing, right? So what we want to build in our children, and actually what is intrinsically in the child, like if you look at the baby, if you look at the 1-year-old, they're not
Yeah.
trying to walk because there's a sticker. They're not trying to
True.
walk because you're giving them a star. They don't even understand the star and the sticker, right? They are intrinsically, internally, they are motivated to repeat that everything that they need so that they can learn how to walk, right? The young child, the baby, who is a few months old, who is looking at the mother and is making sounds, is cooing and babbling, they're not doing it because you're going to reward them. They're
Exactly.
not
Yeah,
doing it
true.
because you're going to punish them if they don't, right? They are doing it because they are being urged from within by their inner teacher to learn and develop and become the best that they can be. So this inner teacher is in there driving development. It's driving the human being and it's driving development. We want our children to always be guided by that inner teacher, because that inner teacher is working according to the laws of nature. So for us as Muslims, we see that inner teacher is working according to Allah's laws and his intention for how children should grow and develop. That inner
Oh.
teacher is urging the child. And it's happening from the moment the child is born. We can see it, right? But somehow along the journey, when your child starts to talk or when they start to walk, because we think that they're more capable or they're more intelligent or they understand, we begin to interfere. We begin to interfere because now, you know, the child has learned to walk and talk by themselves without you doing anything for them. They've learned to walk and talk, but now we are going to interfere because we think that we can teach them better than the inner teacher who's been teaching them already. And actually, just so that you know, we cannot even teach ourselves a new language as easily as the child can pick up a new language. So you cannot even teach yourself a new language as easy as the child. So why do you think that you are better at teaching the child? Right? So somehow usually when the children are like 1 or 2, we begin to use these rewards. You know, do this and I'll give you a sticker, or if you do this, I'll give you a sweet, or if you do this, I'm going to be so happy with you, or if you do this, you're going to have to sit on the naughty chair, or you're going to have to stand against the wall, or you're going to have to go to your room. So we begin now to interfere. There's the inner teacher's been working from birth, but we begin to interfere by giving these external motivations. And then what begins to happen is your child goes through this battle of following their inner teacher or doing what you've asked them to do. And it becomes like this struggle, right? And, you know, we're so, you know, because we've been programmed like this, we've been trained to believe in this and whatever it is, you know, we can be pushy as well to kind of, you know, push the child to do what we want them to do. It's not our fault, you know, we've been programmed to believe this is the way, right? But because of that, eventually the child loses touch with their inner teacher, and that intrinsic motivation goes down. And so now they become extrinsically motivated, which means that they need to have a reward so that they can do something. So in order for them to do something good, they want the reward, or they expect the reward, or they're looking for the reward. And sometimes we see children who won't do something good unless they know that they are going to be given a reward. They won't learn something unless they know that there's like some reward at the end or whatever it may be. And also on the flip side, you know, when you start to use rewards, you also start to use punishments, and then you have children who will not regulate themselves unless there is a punishment. So you have children who, unless somebody shouts at them, they won't stop. They can't regulate themselves because
it becomes a habit.
It becomes a habit that they're so used to having an extrinsic punishment so that they stop what they're doing. Is that who you want your child to be?
No, definitely no. I don't know.
We want, Montessori says every single child is capable of inner discipline. It's a natural human thing.
Instinct.
Everyone is capable of inner discipline. Inner discipline. Inner discipline is not something you do to the child. It's a natural process that takes place inside the child, right? So we want our children to develop this inner discipline that's going to help them to make the right choices in their life. It's going to help them to handle the situations in a positive way. We want them to do that, to have that. So we need to ensure that they are always able to follow that inner teacher, and we don't interfere. And intrinsic motivation is so important. If you look at yourself as an adult today, if you are doing something that you really want to do, you will have high engagement and high interest, and you can do it for hours and hours and hours and you won't be tired, right? Like right now we've been talking for an hour and a half because you want to talk to me for an hour and a half and you're not tired. You're like, oh, go on. You are intrinsically motivated. But let's say you had to sit through a talk that was about something that you really are not interested in. Like, I don't know, something to do with what? Cars? I don't know what you're not interested in. You know,
cars, yes.
Yeah. Let's say you had to sit through an hour and a half lecture about car engines.
Ooh.
Are you going
I'll
to be
sleep.
engaged? Are you going to be engaged?
I'll sleep.
Exactly. You're going to get tired. You're not going to be engaged. You're not going to be focused. You're not going to be interested, right? That's what we're doing to our children, right? They are naturally drawn to things. They are intrinsically motivated, and we want that intrinsic motivation to be part of what they're doing. We want them to choose what they want to do, so that the child is naturally drawn to an activity, or they're naturally drawn to something, and we want to allow them to follow that interest, so that they're intrinsically motivated as they engage. They don't then need a reward and punishment. Like in a mainstream school, you might have to reward the child for studying or learning something, or punish the child if they don't learn something, right? So the child needs this reward or punishment, whether it's a grade or whatever it may be, even if it's a smile from a teacher, they might need that, right? But in a Montessori environment, we don't give any rewards. We don't give any punishments. And the children they are learning, and they are progressing, and they are developing, because they are led by their inner teacher, and they're intrinsically motivated. And when your child is intrinsically motivated and learning what they want to learn, they will learn that thing. They will engage in that thing with fully focused, with complete commitment, with eagerness, with enthusiasm, with energy, and they can do it for hours and hours and hours, and they will not be tired. Right?
Thank you.
So what do you want for your child? Do you want them to grow in this world and become an adult who needs to have a punishment or a reward to do something? Or do you want them to be in touch with their inner teacher? And do you want them to be directed from within, so that they can find out who they are and what their special, unique gift that they bring to this world is? And for them to find that unique gift, they need to be able to follow that inner directive, that inner teacher. They need to be able to follow it. So we need to allow them to be intrinsically motivated, right? So yes, the question, I can't remember what the question was, but it was about intrinsic, extrinsic motivation. So yes, this is really important, and this is what we do in a Montessori environment. Is we don't have rewards, we don't have punishments. Yes, we have boundaries, very clear boundaries. We have freedom within limits, which is another whole talk. So we have freedom within limits, and we have boundaries, but the child has the opportunity to be themselves, and they have the opportunity to follow the inner urges and the inner teacher that's urging them and pushing them to learn and experience certain things. They have that opportunity. And so as the child grows, they have this intrinsic motivation, and it's a huge part of them. And they're not reliant on a reward or a punishment to act. They just act. And one of the things that's really interesting about this is that so many people, their work is connected to the reward of the income that comes from it. Right? But Montessori wanted more than that. She wanted us to do our work to serve. First and foremost is the love of doing a service that is of benefit to others, that is part of this interconnected web of life. And yes, you'll get your salary or you'll get your income, but that's not why you're doing it, because you are intrinsically motivated. That's what we want to help that child as they grow to become that individual who is doing for, whatever it is that they do in life, whatever work it is that they're doing it for the better of humanity. They're doing it to serve life. They understand their place in this cosmos, and they understand that their action is connected to the action of others, and they do it with love, and they're intrinsically motivated. And it's not that extrinsic motivation, that money or that this or that becomes the main focus. And if you think about this, if you are going to a shop or you're hiring somebody for a service, right? And that person is working from their heart, right? And they have their full heart in that work. How do you feel?
Oh.
Whereas if somebody is running it as a business because it's a money-making business or whatever it itself, how do you feel? And I know for you, Jiha, like as a mother, you know, like Rumi Montessori for us is not a business. Like my husband and I, you know, when we set this up, we're not people who have lots of money. So this has not come out from like an investment or a business or it's nothing to do with that. But it was really to offer a service for the children. And I know that because we set it up on that premise, that's why we got parents like you who come with that same energy, you know, you know, and that if we can help the child on their journey of growing to become that person who recognizes their role in the universe and recognizes the way that they can serve humanity and serve life, whatever it may be, we are helping build a better future, a better humanity, a better generation, right?
True.
And someone has put a comment there saying that no amount of extrinsic motivation can replace the satisfaction of an intrinsically motivated work. And that's from the new Montessori mom. And that is so true. That
so
feeling that you have, that satisfaction that you get when you are intrinsically motivated and you do something, that feeling can never, ever, ever, ever be replaced, or you cannot get that feeling when you are doing something for an extrinsic motivation, right? That is so true. And it's so important. And the child is naturally intrinsically motivated. They're on that journey anyway. That's how they're working. Let your child continue in that way. Let your child be that way. And there's one of the IG pages, which is the nesting mama, Nelly. And she shows her toddler, he's probably a lot older now because it's been a while.
She's in here. I saw her. Yeah. She's in here.
So she shows her toddler, you know, her son doing all these amazing things led from within. And if you see the focus and the attention and the joy and the satisfaction and the love on his face, well, she doesn't show his face, but in his energy, right? If you see it, you will feel like, yes, I get it. That is what we want. We want to allow the child to continue on that journey. What they did when they were infants, we want them to be able to do it as a toddler, be intrinsically motivated as a toddler, as a preschool child, as an elementary child, as an adolescent, as an adult. We want that to be part of who they are. So yes, it's important. And yes, you know, like there was something about punishments. There was something about praise versus I can't remember. There was a question, you know, there's so much more that comes into that, but we'll be talking for ages if I go into
so. It's okay, we'll save all the question for next time. If it's okay with you?
I would love to go live next time. We don't know when it is because we have to see about like my fever, so we have to see how that goes, but when I'm well, we'll just announce it. Like today was short notice. It was like, okay, should we try?
Unplanned. We'll just do it. Go for it. Okay, but shall we take this last question? It's just a follow-up question from the question before. It's like, how do you undo the reward and punishment conditioning now that she's reinforcing it?
Yeah, the first thing that I think you should do is you need to gain knowledge so that you know what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. There's loads of books that are written, you know, like I really, really recommend the Positive Discipline book. And in fact, I know that they're launching, Jane Nelson has co-authored a Montessori Positive Discipline book with Chip Lorenzo, I think it is. So it really goes like well together. I think you need to learn more. You need to gain knowledge so that you are prepared, intellectually prepared. And then you also need to spiritually prepare yourself. So you need to work through whatever it is that you have inside you. Like why don't you examine yourself? You know, why do you feel that you need to give rewards? Why do you feel that you need to give punishments? Examine yourself. Why do you believe in that system? Examine yourself. have that inner change in yourself, where you've reflected on your life, your journey, or why you believe in these things or why you've used these things. Reflect on yourself and bring that change, so that you are now approaching this inner discipline of the child. You're approaching it with full conviction, with full love and conviction, so that you can now be ready to approach the child differently. And if you look at these books, they'll have so many techniques that you can use, so that you can start to make changes in the way that you approach children, whether it's in a home or in a classroom. So many techniques, and they work, but you have to be consistent and you have to go through it so that you can come out at the end with that. And we have children who will come to a Montessori classroom, and maybe they're used to rewards and punishments, but within a matter of weeks or sometimes months it may take, they will change. And in the Montessori environment, they will begin to show, there'll be extrinsically motivations, they'll show their interest, they'll no longer need punishments, they no longer need rewards, So it's just about, every child is capable. It's never too late. Don't think that, oh my God, I did this, it's too late. How do I undo this? Don't think about undoing, and don't bring those negative thoughts in. Just think about forward. Think forward. What do you want to do now? And start with yourself. Start with yourself. Changing yourself. Because actually, if you change that energy, that deep energy that is within you, if you change that deep energy that's making you rely on rewards and punishments, if you change your belief about that, just the fact that you've changed that energy is going to give out a different energy to the child. And that in itself is going to make changes. You're going to see something change just by changing the way you think.
Oh, you almost made me cry several times, for this 1.5 hour.
Please don't cry. I might not be able to stop myself because I get high because when I have a fever and then I do work, I use my adrenaline and then I get a bit high. So I think I got a bit high right now. So that's why when you said to me, "Are you sure?" I was like, yeah, let's just go with the adrenaline and see what comes out, because
I hope you won't pass out after this. Please don't pass out.
Don't worry about that. Hopefully I'll be fine. So
thank you so much for doing this. I hope everyone
Thank you.
is benefit from our talk tonight, and I hope to see you again. I like to summarize everything, but it will take more time. I don't want to take more time of everybody's, especially you, because you're having a fever right now. So I'll sums up everything in the caption later after I save this conversation in IGTV. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much, Madam Nusaiba.
Thank you so much
I miss this school. I miss everyone there.
It's good to see you. So
It's
thank
good
you
to
so
see
much
you
for having me, and hopefully we'll have another session where we can answer some questions.
I hope so.
Thank you. Auntie Nissa's here as well.
Yeah, Lisa. Okay.
Okay,
Nice
thank
seeing you
you.
tonight. Okay, go and take care of yourself.
You too. Good night.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good night.